Here, basically, you see the summary of the four markets getting together here, right? And there I put the key equations for each market. So let's start with the goods market. That is from our first two meetings, right? So I said, essentially, this is talking about the GDP by expenditure. That's the goods market, okay? Except you notice here, each of the variables, I put it into a full function. For example, the whole component here is consumption. The whole component here is investment. And then government spending, and then this is export, and this is import, right? But the consumption is a function of something else. Now, not all of this you know already, because for example, W is for wealth. By the way, W is not wages, okay? It's wealth. And we have not discussed about that. Okay. Y minus T, that's the disposable income. That's income minus tax. So, disposable income affect the consumption. So yes, this is all the consumption. The investment also we haven't discussed here. How do you decide the level of the investment? It depends on this expected price, okay, and the real interest rate are. But we haven't discussed about it because we haven't covered the full financial market yet, okay. And then the G is the government spending, and then the export. Now, export here is a function of real exchange rate. Remember last week we discussed about real exchange rate, but also functions of the income of foreign country. That's YF. So if our trading partners' income increase, they demand more product from us. That means our export will increase. In the case of import, it depends on our income. So if our income increase or our GDP increase, then there is a tendency that the import will also go up. Okay, and of course the real exchange rate also affects the import. So anyway, all this represents the goods market. And then in the money market, you remember real balance here, right? So this is the key equation in the money market. And then in the financial market, I should call it limited financial market because we're essentially just talking about exchange rate. We learn about UIP. And that is powerful enough because it shows the link between the exchange rate and the interest rate, which is here. So essentially, this UIP link the financial market and the money market here. And then today, we learn about the labor market. And the key equation in the labor market is this. You remember the price equals to 1 plus the markup times the expected price, and then the functions of this, which is U, essentially this whole component is U, and the institutional vector C, right? So, that is the workhorse model of macroeconomics. So, if you know all this very well, then essentially you already pass the macroeconomics because that is the workhorse of macroeconomics. From now on, however, until the end of the semester, my job is to introduce to you more element of realities. Because remember, what is macroeconomics? Macroeconomics is a story from disequilibrium to equilibrium. And if there's another disequilibrium, macroeconomics tells us how to get back to the equilibrium. But for today, since we're talking about medium run, basically we're talking about a story that is more complete than the story before today. So, what we learned before today is not incorrect. They are correct, but incomplete. So, with today's class, your knowledge about macroeconomics is more complete. With the footnote that the financial market is not yet complete, because in the financial market here, we are only talking about exchange rate. And that is the reasons why next week we will talk about stock market and bonds market to make it super complete. But today basically is complete. The implication of today's class compared to before today is this basically. So I have to make it like this now. So let me shift here. Alright. The reason is because I made an animation here. So let's start with the short run here. What happened with the interest rate is lower. Suppose Bank Indonesia lowered down the interest rate, which by the way they just did because of the fear of the coronavirus. So they lowered the interest rate. What happened is that there are two things happening. One is, according to the ISLM analysis, output will go up. And if the interest rate is lower, capital inflow will go down. So F is capital inflow. Because remember, from the beginning, I don't like to discuss about closed economy and open economy. From the beginning, we have to discuss about open economy. So anything you do with the monetary policy will affect the external sector. In this case, capital inflow will go down. Okay? But with the interest rate going down, we learned from a few weeks ago what happened with the exchange rate. So E is the exchange rate. Well, if the interest rate goes down, exchange rate will depreciate. Remember, going up means depreciate because we are measuring local currency per US dollar. So let's say the original rupiah is 13,000. But now, because interest is going down, the rupiah become 14,000, which by the way is true now, right? I heard it's hit the 14,000 now. Anyway, so exchange rate depreciate. Theoretically, it should be good for the net export. Net export is supposed to go up, right? Because depreciation of exchange rate makes the price of your goods cheaper in the eyes of the foreign countries, right? So if the net export improve, then the output will also improve. So what you have here is that direct positive impact of the lower interest rate on output and the indirect positive impact of the lowering interest rate on output. The indirect one is through the external sector. Okay. The bottom one is exactly the opposite. So you increase the interest rate, you increase the capital inflow, but the exchange rate will appreciate, net export will go down, output will go down. So it's the same, except the opposite. Basically, it's exactly the opposite. From this short run story, we are able to generate aggregate demand, right? Now, today we move to the medium run. How do I move this? Okay, here's the medium run. So what we learned today is that if the output increase, what happened with the unemployment? Unemployment decrease. If the unemployment decrease, what happened with the prices? Remember aggregate supply? P will increase. And if the P increase, and this is the aggregate supply, if the P increase, Y will also increase. Y will decrease. Because this is the sign. You see that the red sign, that means negative here. Okay? So, because of the price increase, Y will decrease. This is the aggregate supply, this is the real balance story. Okay? So, what is the difference between short run and medium run in this particular example? Well, let's go back before the medium run. Okay? So, suppose we are only talking about short run. Look what happened. When you shock the monetary policy, you end up with higher output. Okay? But in the medium run, when you shock the interest rate, you end up with the same level of output. Okay? Why? Because even though originally higher, now price goes up, and because of the price and output is having negative relation, output will go down. That is the biggest difference. Okay? And the same thing, the opposite happening here when you increase it. And because of this medium run story, you generate the PC curve or the AS curve. which is essentially the same, except PC is more realistic. Okay? So, all in all, what happened is that when you introduce four markets at the same time, that is goods market, money market, limited financial market, and the labor market, you are really hitting the essence of macroeconomics, which is the story from disequilibrium, because when you lower the interest rate, you create disequilibrium because your output increase, and going back to the equilibrium after you take into account the medium run story. Okay? Now, here is the key. All this makes the statement that often made by some people, well, to some extent I made also, that's why macroeconomics is dead. Because all this story from equilibrium, from disequilibrium back to equilibrium, in some cases it did not happen. So this is only nice in the textbook, in theory, in the classroom, but in some cases it didn't happen. And the best example is what happened in 2008. Because if you use this workhorse model, it fails to explain the extreme events like in 2008, global financial crisis. And if it fails to explain the phenomena of 2008, how can we expect from macroeconomics theory some policy guidance? What needs to be taken? What needs to be done if there is a crisis? The answer is, don't look for it in the macroeconomics theory. At least not macroeconomics as it is now. That is the main rationale why some people, including myself, is calling for a reform of the macroeconomics, because the current macroeconomics is dead. This does not explain the event like in 2008, and I am afraid macroeconomics will be hit again by the coronavirus. Because of this coronavirus things, I don't think macroeconomics theory which you learn will be able to explain that event. And because they are not able to explain that event, there is no hope that you can try to learn to get policy guidance, what to do if there is a crisis, let's say because of the coronavirus. I don't think there's anything you can learn from the workhorse model of macroeconomics so far. So our challenge now is that the rest of the time, I know you have a question, let me finish first and then I'll go back to your question. So our task now is that from now on until the end of the semester, I want to explore with you together possible improvement of the macroeconomics, so that by the end of the semester, who knows, maybe we can come up with an alternative macroeconomics model. Alright, that's the conclusion for today.